Hello, this is Arielle from the Inconspicuous Bear, and I'll be narrating the 10-man version of the Siegecrafter Blackfuse encounter in the Siege of Orgrimmar from a Guardian point of view. On normal mode, the Siegecrafter encounter is incredibly easy, especially from a tanking perspective. There's almost nothing you can screw up, and again, in keeping with the rest of the normal mode encounters of this tier, basically nothing that can potentially kill you. The first ability that Siegecrafter has you have to be aware of is called Electrostatic Charge. It does 250k nature damage, and it's a single target, so it hits the tank. It's a single target nuke to the tank. So every time you get hit with it, though, you get a stack, which increases the damage you take by 100% from electrostatic charge. It's going to do 250 the first time, then 500, then a mil, unmitigated nature damage. Now, while this ability does stack to 10 times, you only ever take 3 in a heroic because you swap after 3 stacks every time. This ability is actually necessary, so you pretty much have to take 3 stacks in order to be able to deal with the secondary ad that spawns, but we'll get to that in a minute. Basically, you take 3 stacks of this thing. The first 2 you can take without even paying attention to them. The last one you can probably barkskin and you'll be fine. The second tank ability the boss has is called Protective Frenzy. Every time that one of his weapons dies on the conveyor belt, he gains 100% attack speed for 10 seconds. Basically, make sure you have Savage Defense up, and that's it. Like, it's really quite harmless by itself. The problem happens where, like, he does an electrostatic charge and the melees you twice really fast, but you will have Barkskin for the only one that's potentially dangerous to those anyway, so in reality this doesn't really matter and you mostly just ignore it because you just have Savage Defense up and it doesn't matter, but it is something that you can be aware of. He, like, goes bacon red and it's pretty obvious. Now, like I mentioned before, periodically the boss will spawn these things called automated shredders. They're shredders, basically. The thing is, the tanks are the ones that have to kill them, because the tanks gain this buff which allows them to do more damage to targets which have a specific buff themselves. I forget what the buffs are called, but you gain the electrostatic discharge buff or whatever it is, and allows you to do more damage to the shredders. So basically, tanks have to kill the shredders. Yay. For high crit class like Guardians, this doesn't really matter. But for the sake of argument, the Shredders do have a couple of abilities you need to be worried about. The first of which is called Death from Above. He'll launch himself up into the air, and you'll see a big yellow circle on the ground. Just stay out of it. It's really obvious. Don't stand in it. Make sure no one else is standing in it. I mean, you can stand in it if you want it. If you want to, it's 500k damage. But he does a shock, nature shock thing right afterwards, so it is possible to take a pretty high amount of damage within a very short period of time. It's easier to just run out and then run back in and kill it afterwards. A second ability that can affect the shredders that you need to worry about is called Automatic Repair Beam. It's basically this green beam that goes between the boss and the shredder and will permanently keep the shredder alive, and you can't DPS through it. The way to counter this is just move it out of range of the beam. That's literally it. You move the shredder out of range of the beam. Yeah. Pretty easy. For tanking items, definitely go with the tanking cloak. It's pretty much impossible to get one shot by this boss in normal difficulty unless you're just being a moron. So, yeah, DPS cloak all the way. If you can get away with using an alternate helm with the DPS meta, do that. Otherwise, just stick with your normal helm and use the tank meta. In terms of talents, this fight's pretty open-ended. You can pretty much take whatever you want, but there's obviously some that are going to be better than others, and I'll just go through my recommendations and my typical builds here. Tier 1, Wild Charge, just for the sake of argument, to get to the shredders faster, which means you can kill them faster, which means you can get back to the boss faster. You can make an argument for Feline Swiftness in order to move out World and Drills, but in reality, World and Drills is really easy to avoid already, so you don't really need to make it easier on yourself to avoid it. Charge also allows you to root crawler mines if you're going to be using that strategy. Not crawler mines, whatever the mines are, proximity mines, whatever mines. If you're going to be using the strategy of killing the drill instead of the mines. For Tier 2, Sarah's Gift, Scenario Ward, there's a lot of opportunity here to use Scenario Ward to help heal raid damage, especially from the Shredder AoE, but do whatever you want, doesn't matter. For the Tier 3 talents, these only matter if you are killing the drills instead of the mines, so you're letting the mines spawn. For those, you just take Typhoon or Mass Entanglement, because you can't afford to be spending GCDs on Fairy Fire, especially when Fairy Swarm is going to fall off in 15 seconds. So just take Typhoon or Mass Entanglement for that tier if you're going to have the mines. Otherwise, this tier is completely worthless. Tier 4, Soul of the Forest, Incarnation, doesn't matter. Tier 5, again, this tier only applies if you are having mines being spawned. In that case, use Take Ursul's Vortex or Bash. Disorienting Roar is like 100% useless. And Tier 6, German Scenarios and Nature's Vigil are the only two talents you can actually use in this tier. If you're like extremely fast at killing your shredders, you might get 20 seconds of uptime on the boss with Heart of the Wild, but it's not worth it. Just go with DOC or Nature's Vigil instead. In terms of tips or tricks, there isn't really anything you can do as a druid. The only thing to remember as a tank is that you can actually drag the shredder into one of the fire pools left by the lasers, or into saw blades to help kill it faster, but really you're a guardian. This shouldn't be a big deal, but for whatever reason, if you are having trouble killing the shredders, you can drag it into a saw blade or a pool of fire to help kill it faster. I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck in the Siege of Orgrimmar.
Jeez, almost didn't get that one. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm off.
Yep.
Steve, on the move.